Another major 1950s science fiction film, one of its most phenomenally influential, which I happen to acknowledge in my 50 to 55 discussion retrospective, was 1954's Gojira, directed by Ishiro. There's really no reason not to discuss this film. I've always considered the film to be, and I've been familiar with it since I was about 12. I ordered the DVD of it, so eager to see where the genesis of this Godzilla mythos all began. I purchased a few of the sequels as well. And I feel as though it's a... Well, one thing I want to say is, at this point in my life, I consider it an somewhat inferior Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. The only reason it would be considered superior is due to its strong anti-nuclear message and the way it evokes recent tragedies in Japan's history in order to drive its affect for the genre film. They could be considered potentially tasteless if you commit to it poorly. 2016's Shin Gojira compared the attack of a Gojira creature to the recent ecological disasters and semi-nuclear, in the case of the 2011 incident of Japan's history. And it's a tradition which I think is... I think it's meant to really enforce the affect of what would happen if this creature, Gojira, came to attack the contemporary world. It's a fairly well-directed film from what it is. Obviously, a lot of the VFX photography is fantastic. There's extraordinary shots of Gojira in this picture, and I think that, sometimes we have this issue with, certainly a contemporary audience would complain that, some of the older creature features, say 1975's Jaws might be an infamous example, but I'm certain there's certainly others in the 1950s where the effects weren't ideal, that, you don't see the monster enough. You see Gojira plenty in this film. Like Creature from the Black Lagoon, I had a friend share an anecdote that when Creature from the Black Lagoon would air on TVS, it would somewhat frequently, apparently. I'd actually recorded on there, I have to admit. To my memory, maybe I did later in life. But you could always turn to, whenever you would pop on TVS of Creature of the Black Lagoon airing, you would typically see the creature. It wasn't one of these cases where you have to wait around until the last 20 minutes where you see 5 minutes of the creature in other genre films of the era or the 20th century in general, pre-CGI. But also the general staging of the dialogue scenes between humans, generally pretty stellar. I gotta give credit to Ishiro Honda here, as well as cinematographer Masao Tamai. And they managed to get some pretty able talent here. We have the notable presence of Takashi Shimura, the legendary figure from Akiru, Seven Samurai, known for Akira Kurosawa's films, but also this possibly the most seen film which he appeared in. One interesting factoid I once heard about this film, I don't know if it's true or not, someone feel free to clarify. The original, that iconic, I suppose it's iconic, I think it's iconic, shot of Gojira's first appearing, when we first see his head appearing over the mountain, apparently initially he was going to have a cow in his mouth, but then they realized that this wouldn't be indicative of his size necessarily. He's much bigger than a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which could potentially carry a cow in its mouth. Although I think the cow would have been lodged between a couple of Gojira's teeth, rather than just hanging with its limbs out either side of his jaw. In any case, I apologize that this is a rather brief video and an insufficient description of this picture. Many writings have been published about this film. I'm sure many of them, if not all of them, will be more adequate than mine. I just wanted to acknowledge this film's existence because I felt it was wrong of me, I guess. On my conscience. My conscience felt bad about having not mentioned this film in that 50 to 55 sci-fi retrospective. So now I have, in hindsight, after the fact. Anyway, thanks all. Have a fantastic day, night, wherever you are.